Hi everyone, I'm Taron and this is Lord of the Springs. I'd like to give you a quick overview over the parameters and features and so forth, and give you a few tips along the way. Okay, so this is your raw init patch, and I just tried to get some very basic settings, and we will ignore them for a second because I'd like to start you off with the presets menu. Since you should really look at those presets first, that gives you a bit of an idea of the nature of sounds you can create. Of course, you can go far beyond that. However, so the presets menu has the banks on one side, and the top entry here, this reveals all the presets that are loose in the folder, in the preset folder. And if you pick a bank, it shows you actually the presets inside the bank. Let's go back to the free presets that are loose in the folder, and I made it so that you have to double click a preset if you want to load it, and when you just click and drag you can actually move the folder up and down, or you grab the little sidebar and so forth. Anyhow, okay, so you can always make a new preset. You just type in a new name, new preset, yay, and then we save it. See that little save button here? Click, and then there you go, there you have it. And now we can change this around however we want it. Alright. Alright, so there's that, and with the right mouse button you can delete the file again. And you can see it said delete file. There you go. You can also, if you alter an existing preset, you can hit save. This little button will appear once you can, and then you can choose whether you want to override it. You can say no, don't overwrite the existing file, and then it brings you right back up to the rename, and you can call it Buddy02. And then you can save it again, and it saves immediately like that. Or you can change it, and you can say cancel. Okay, never mind that. But let's delete that one again. Don't want to make it messier than it already is. Alright. Also, you can always rename files. Not that it makes any sense right now. Oh, that's a funny demonstration. It was pretty stupid. Anyway, let's delete this. And let's save, and now. This is one way of renaming files. Oh, it's stupid. I have it different in the banks. In the banks, let's go there. Yeah. Let's pick one bank and one preset in the bank. Where's my pedal? Ah, here. Alright, so in the banks, the presets, there, if you say new preset, it drops in whatever you have currently active. So, for example, let's load any kind of preset over here. Let's go into keys, and let's say new preset, double click that, and then it drops the harvest in there. And it should be right there, where it is, there. And I call those keys. Great. But I want to call it just key, and you see it immediately renames it once you're in a bank. Inside a bank, it really always instantly renames it. There. Ta-da! So, there's that, and also if you want to remove one here, it says remove preset, and not delete file. Isn't that amazing? Okay, never mind. Yeah, let's leave it in there, I like it. Okay, so there's that. And of course you can make a new bank. And when you make a new bank, it will create an initialized bank. Init bank, how about? See? And there, as the first, I always put the default init patch in there. You can remove it again. Or leave it there, however you like. And again, you can always rename it. My first, ta-da, and so forth. And that's about it. Another way to make new presets in a bank is you just go onto your next preset and type in a name. Great. And there you go, it shows up. Funny enough, in the bank before there was a program in here, and there will be another one here. Yeah, I did not delete the bank that was underneath, but doesn't matter much. I mean, if you don't like that, you can always just say new preset and it will copy your first preset and then you can change it here. Am I confusing you already? No? Good! Alright, so never mind. Let's move on. Let's go through the presets. So this, or rather, you can check out the presets yourself. Let's have a look at the whole parameter business. So, how does all of this work? Now, Lord of the Springs is a spring-based physical modeling synth, although I rather would like to call it instrument, as it's really not a traditional synth by any means. Rather strange. Alright, I made this cute little visualization here for you so that you can see what I mean by springs. See, this here is a spring. If I let go, ding 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 ding, it swings. And that is basically one spring. You would think, wouldn't you? But that's not exactly true. I'm visualizing in the background the vibration of one spring, but really it is two springs. See, one that goes on the x-axis and the other that goes on the y-axis. Ding 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 ding. So, yeah, that's how that works. And so this is, let me turn off spring B right now. So, and this is how this works. This is just one spring. It creates a sine wave. And this sine wave, that's the fundamental for everything here. That is locked to the keys you're playing. So you can't transpose it, because I figured that's nonsense. You can always transpose the keys. And it makes things easier for me, so we can focus on crazier stuff on top of that. This little indicator here gives you a reference point, and I put it on A because of the concert pitch. Whoever thought of that? That's what we're sticking with too. And so, well, that's where I put it. And now these needles, they are basically relative to that fundamental. That means, let's go to our x-axis, so to say. See? This is your fundamental, it's on A, and now your secondary is on E, a quint above it. Or a fifth, as you would say. And so that's the basis for spring A. Now spring B is a bit weirder. Spring B doesn't have its own attack. Like in spring A, whenever you hit a key, it attacks the spring. Spring B is kind of a follower or a secondary spring. It actually gets vibrated by the vibration of the first spring set. Now the interesting thing about this is, this happens internally, so you can turn spring A off completely, but since spring A, vibrates spring B, you still can hear it, but you can hear it only through spring B. And this diffuse actually diffuses the input that comes from spring A into spring B. So that's what the nature of this sound is. I've got a mosquito, wonderful. Anyhow. So. And when somebody complains about the weird resonances, that's because the whole thing is resonance. In essence, a spring is kind of like a very, very simple resonance filter. Yeah, a very, very basic one pole almost, you'd say. It's probably two pole, but so, yeah, that's that. And so, just so you know the setup of what is spring A, what is spring B. Now let's go back to spring A. We're jumping a little bit back and forth. So spring A is really the master, so to say, and all whatever stimulates it is essentially, you know, that's the main character or main envelope of the sound. Okay, that's yeah. So you have what I ended up calling rise, and initially I called it hit power, and I made that because I have this weird bowing technology that I hooked up, and that sounds kind of like this. That's when you use the mod wheel. Oh, that mosquito drives me nuts. No, and I'm not gonna edit this. So, yeah. But then I realized, hey, why hit power? Why don't I make it a rise? So that way we can have also pet-like sounds with a slow attack. And I did not call it attack because it really is a rise. That means when you hold down the keys, that gradually puts power onto the spring, and when you let go, it releases. But when you let go, it also decays if you have the sustain pedal down. So normally, normal synth, when you hold keys and you hold the sustain pedal, your attack time would continue until the attack time is over and so forth. But not in a lot of the springs. In a lot of the springs, you have your rise time, and when you let go, you have your decay time. And when you let the sustain pedal go, then you have your release time. Hold on, like this. Sustain pedal, and release. So it's a bit like, imagine it like a glass where you rub your finger on the edge, and then when you let go, it would still ring. But then when you touch the glass, it stops. It's kind of like that. Okay. So it introduces a very different kind of playing style. It probably takes a tiny moment to get used to it, but it's actually quite interesting. So it's a bit more performance almost oriented. Alright, let's go back to full one. And the decay time. Well, I don't think I need to explain that stuff to you, because that is probably the most conventional thing in there. Short decay time. Endless decay time. And my favorite decay times. No, not this one. More like that. Okay, and release time, of course, as you would expect. Okay. And here comes a weirder one, and that is a random tune. And this random tune affects only the second spring, the X spring I call it. And that sounds at first like, oh. Actually, let me bring the saturation down. Okay. Well, the first one still works as normal. And together they sound like this. It's not amazing. You can get very subtle. You can get a light levitation into the sounds that way, of course. It's not like a typical type of chorus, because the notes, you know, they stay fixed on their random detune. And I like that sort of stuff. It just gives a certain, you know, something. Okay. And then there's the saturation. Actually, because I forgot that it was up, we've listened to it for most of this already, but... And that is just a very simple saturator. You can get probably the more synthetic sounds that way. It's kind of going into the direction of a pulse wave. Because it is saturation, offers a unique opportunity to do weirder stuff. Of that, or the automation of that later, because that's all possible. Okay, so, and that would be the entire spring A. Wasn't so much, was it? Or did I make it appear like terrible? I don't know. You probably have to get used to the fact that I did not label the buttons directly, all the dials and such, and my reasoning for that is a little weird. It is actually quite a few dials, as you can see, and I find it draining if every single one of them was labeled. First of all, the interface would have to have a much different kind of size and of course a different layout, and then once you know them, the labels, they just drain you. They are just in the way. They're clutter for the eyes, clutter for the mind. You know, you're always, you know, processing the stuff, whether you know, recognize it or not, or realize it or not. So I rather have it that you temporarily have to learn what it is by just going over it, because the, you know, little LCD interface is like a mouse over. It's like a, what do you call those? Tooltip. And you will, I think, pretty quickly understand what is what. All right. So, and I try to be, well, as consistent as you know, as possible. But, you know, they have different kind of meanings, of course. So anyhow, so that's that. So I think it's time for us to move forward to spring B. All right, so spring B can have a limited frequency range. So right now, by default, it goes from the lowest possible frequency to the highest. And that is actually based on 128 keys, but anyhow, so there you go. If you actually reduce that range, you can gradually detune the second spring, and that creates some interesting effects. Let's do less. Get some really interesting, more like glockenspiel or bell-like type of action and all that sort of stuff. But you can also just basically lock it to a frequency. And I always recommend, of course, just you know, try to raise it higher rather than lower. So raise the lower end of it, because you don't want to have accidental overlaps of the second spring frequencies against the first spring, because that creates those resonance spikes. So you always try to get it into the ballpark by raising the lower frequency and then gradually dropping the higher one. You can still, as you can see, adjust the frequency offset. Alright, and that's a very perfect opportunity to go to the decay. So the decay is also secondary, so that means this is the master decay and this will be relative to it in a sense. Okay, so make a shorter delay and you get this kind of almost Rhodes-like attack clink. Alright, so there's that. And you can always increase the range again. Or give it the full range again. Okay, so there's that. And then the diffusion, I already gave you an idea of what that does. If you put the decay all the way to 0, you still hear a little tick. Because it still has to get stimulated and still responds to the stimulation. And that gives you the little tick. If you don't like it, let's see what happens when we take the rise down. Oh, it's gone. No more tick. Alright. Very ghostly, huh? Oh, that mosquito. Alright. So, now there's a secret little button right here. And I should really stop the recording and get that mosquito. Okay. Ah, yeah. So, that little magic button here. That links the decay time to the diffusion factor. So, right now you would just hear a tick. And we make it longer. Without diffusion. Alright. But you have to watch out with that diffusion, because it really introduces some high frequencies. So if you crank this all the way up, the higher notes can get beastie. I should consider adding more custom tracking to the parameters, but I haven't done that yet. Mostly because I'm worried about the processing speed. but yeah. And also because of the freaking GUI. This is gonna get a bit dense, but maybe I put it into modulation later this year, but we'll go to that in a moment. Okay, so little link links the diffusion to the decay. Alright, and let's put it on 0. Didn't get it. So next is again a random detune that goes for the entire spring B. And I'm saying entire spring B because spring B also consists of 2 springs, just like spring A. And that becomes more obvious right after I talked about the random tune. There's that. And there is a detune, and the detune is detuning both springs of spring B against each other. Let me turn this down so you can really hear. So, but what I have done is I only detune one of them, and so what you can do is, you know, you go to some reasonable amount of detuning, and then you can use the needle to compensate if you wanted to have it central. Kind of stupid. I thought about actually just doing a spread, but a subtle thing, but actually not so subtle. You'll see. So let's put this back on 0. Ta-da! Let's shift it an octave down. Because here there's the magic octave gap. And that spreads both, as you can imagine, both springs of spring B an octave apart. And that gives you, of course, that opens up the spectrum of the sound and is very helpful. So you don't end up with all these, you know, mute or muffly kind of sounds. Can you hear it? See? Opens it up. And you don't always want it, so that's why I made it an option, but yeah, it's a nice option. And here, instead of a saturator, I have a fixed cruncher on 2-bit. And that makes only sense when you get to hear the spring B, because it crunches up spring B. But because spring B gets its vibration from spring A, it essentially crunches up what comes from spring A. spring B. I almost am through, and it's just half an hour. Anyhow, so then there comes global. Global, of course, is volume. And you can see also I made this nice little red area, and that is literally really on up here, really just multiplication by 2. However, down here, it is actual extra saturation. Because I thought that's interesting. Alright, so there's that. I sometimes like a bit of multifunctionality here, anyhow, so there's that. And we have a high pass. And the high pass is very, very helpful when you do especially these pads, because they have a tendency to create a lot of boredom. See? And so you can compensate that. A little bit of help before you go into the real mix. Alright, so there's that. And the low pass. That is mostly helpful when you create some bestier sounds like this. You can tame them a wee bit. Did I say wee bit? Alright, and then we have stereo. Now stereo spread is something I just hooked up very, very shortly, like a few days ago. And it splits apart spring B from spring A, except the problem is spring A swings in spring B, so it's a bit not ideal, because you have a portion of spring A and spring B, and so it seems like it's all on one side. And I'm sure you heard the really mean highs hissing away. Yeah, you gotta watch those. Okay. And the other way around if you like. So by default, I'm sure you have also already noticed that the spread is already on halfway. And spread is just tracking on pan, so your lowest note is on your left, your highest on your right. And if you go all the way, it's for your THX experience. And if you wanted mono in the center, you go to 0. Alright. So that's the spread. Where were we? Yeah. And the concert pitch. So for all of those who also believe that 440 is a freakish conspiracy, you can go down to anything you wish to. And now this is gonna be freaky for very painful when you're so used to 440. Anyhow, so there we go. Let's go back. Like the good little sheeples we are. Okay. And we have a crunchy crunch, and that is a bit cruncher, and I don't even know why I kept all of those in there, because it's like, I don't know. I don't even... I find everything below 4 useful to some extent. And so forth. Yeah. And I even left 0 in there, which... makes 0 sense, but anyway, so there it is. I probably should, anyway, fine, maybe I give it later some extra functionality, so don't use it, use it bits 1 and up. Okay, so there's that. Let's put that back down. Alright, now I don't want to keep you on a freaking clip for too long. It's getting close to 40 minutes now. Anyhow, a quick look at the body. Oh shoot, that's not a quick look. Ooh, alright, let's rush through this a tiny little bit. So, no body. Lots of body. Okay. The body is a imaginary frame upon which is mounted. Hold on, my cat is annoying. I have to let her out. Ah, dang it, I should have used the opportunity to actually hunt down that mosquito. Oh well, moving on. The body, right. So, body, imaginary frame, springs mounted on top of it. And here in these 2 ones, you can see lowest key and highest key. Highest key, that actually shows the range of springs. So right now this would be 88 springs. Actually, this would be 88 springs. Yeah. But you can reduce that number to any spring you like. Ah. And because these springs, the frame gets the frequency, your output, and then whatever resonates will, it forwards that to the mounted springs, and they will then resonate with it. And low frequencies, they still give enough, the stimulation for even higher springs, which is why you can hear them there, even though, there. And but the lower springs won't respond to the higher input frequencies, or so little that you wouldn't hear them. And that is extremely low. Anyhow, so you get a little bit the idea. This is basically your array of springs you have mounted on your body frame. There we go. Let's go to my default, 21. Alright. So, and then you can tune the frame. This is actually the tune of the frame, but it's so subtle it's stupid to show it right now. Comes out a bit more when we turn up the diffusion. The diffusion is essentially the same idea as this diffusion. So, and if I increase the decay time, you can hear the diffusion quite well. This without, of course. It just sounds messy. But nice messy, I like it. Anyhow, so there's that. And if you have 0 decay, the body's contribution to the sound really is only on the sound as it plays, and so it won't have the effect of like a room or a strange kind of plate reverb or so, but it will become just part of the character of the sound. Alright, and then you have the very, very mysterious sharp. Now, this gradually cuts off or turns around the lower part of the waveform. In essence, it's like just taking the upper portion of the sine wave that gets produced and to energize the frame. And as a result, it becomes a bit more atonal, what comes out of the body. You hear that? As opposed to... That is actually much closer to what I originally intended, and that was my only original setting. I later on just put in that you can actually get the whole wave into the frame. But this has a very nice... I like the effect it has on the sound. Yeah, so anyway, I'll make this a bit more normal here. Okay, body section down here. Okay, good. And now comes the other magical part. Oh, that's not so magical. That's, I called it a wet because it allows you to mix between dry and wet, just like in any normal effect. Very spooky. Ah, this way you can hear the frame tuning. Well, spook. Alright, where was I? Ah, alright, there's that. Okay. And then we have a little phaser section dedicated to the body. And I by default have it up. Actually, before I would put that in, it always sounded like this. But then I put the phaser in. And you can see this is the frequency of the phaser, this feedback, this is the mix of it. And there's nothing much to say about that except for don't put the feedback on 1. I knew this was a less dangerous moment, so that's why I showed it, but yeah. You can use it if you wish, but then you really want to turn down the body, or you want to destroy your ears and gears. See what I mean? Okay. The phaser has a stereo width and a tremolo strength, the amplitude. And a rate. Very fun stuff. And then you have a sync section, whereby the interesting thing is, because this is a global LFO, it's not based on the node, I put not only in tempo, but also song position. And that only works when your song plays, of course. And that's something I figured it might actually be interesting for your composition if you wanted to play with that stuff. Oh, I think she got me. Dang it, mosquito. Okay. So that was the body. All right. Let's make this a little. More subtle. Okay, so moving on to, should I go to microtuning, modulation, or effects? Let's start with the effects. Actually, that's a very quick one would think, a delay. Ta-da! Let's sync. And feedback. Okay, and then there is the sand. Okay, that's a weird one. So I had this funny idea of using particles and basically just bounce them on the output vibration, kind of like as if you put sand on the membrane of a speaker. And that yielded some very interesting stuff. And you can filter it. I thought it was an interesting component to give it a bit more of an organic touch, and it's just a curiosity, and hey, it's in there. Don't need to use it, but it's kind of fun. Alright, so the effects are super, everything is kept really simple, just so we have a little bit of something extra to play with. And modulation, extraordinarily simple. It's basically just the start, and what we have is an LFO and an envelope, but they are only for that balance. But the pitch only of our fundamental spring. Okay. That's the LFO and an envelope. that's about it. I haven't even played all that much with all of that yet, but anyhow. So there's that. I should. But yeah, I really wanted something more for us in the meantime. But here comes the really, really weird one, and that is purely, actually I think it's purely performance, but microtuning. But it's not just microtuning of notes. Yeah. I put templates in there of typical scale tunings of scales, like a mean or just. And I put another template for Octatonic, which is really, really fun. This way anybody can play complicated kind of chords and social progressions. That's a mean one. A meanie. Fun. Okay, and you can load and save your own templates and more. And we can reset that. Oh, let's leave it on Octatonic. Oh, no. Let's reset it for a second. And now we go to the pitch bend microtuning, because that is really, really fun. I put a tonic C major preset template in here, but you can shift that over. But let me demonstrate that first, to satisfy any standard scale. Let me make a more adequate kind of tone. Okay. Okay, so what this does is each note has the proper interval to, the next note you want to pitch up to. For example, if you set the pitch range, I forgot to show that one down here. If you set the pitch range to 2 halftones, the classic one. Yeah. Each one of these is a multiplier for it. So all the way up or all the way down is 1, and then you can adjust it to your liking. And here I basically said on C you can go 2 halftones up to D, or just a halftone down to B. that means you can actually pitch chords, and that is, I think, a very fun thing. And as that, and it's also great for soli. So if you want to play solos, you don't have to worry about just trying to, hit half a note, but you can just happily pitch away. Anyway, sound like that. Yeah. So there's that. And of course, I put also. Oh yeah, pentatonic. That's fun too. But oh no, let's stay on C major. So in case you want to, for example, go to play one D major, for example, and you can just scoot this up by 2, and then. Alright, so that's how that works. Scoot up, scoot down, and so forth. And then a pentatonic one, what should I do that? Anyhow, there's that, and and the octatonic one that goes with your octatonic. I'm not sure if you have noticed, not my crackling chair, but the fact that I hold the lower notes with a sustain pedal, but then I take my hands off of it and can pitch the notes that I'm holding down. So that is really another thing that's quite cool doing playing. You can do very guitar-like stuff with that. And that one was a bit extra freaky because of the microtuning. Anyhow, so there's the microtuning, and you can completely go crazy with that stuff, do wild stuff, it just allows, for once, convenience to stay in scales, to stay straight on notes, or you can go nuts and do some weird atonal stuff that way, or do other ethnic type of, other scales, raga, I don't know, whatever you find. I feel like an imbecile on that stuff. I know very little. Anyhow, so there's that. And that's that. Oh yeah, and there's one more thing about pitching. For once, of course, you can, decide for your pitch range. But then there's the other freaky feature, and that is the relax rate. And that is also a really interesting performance thing. So now pitch only pitches the notes that you hold down, actually. So if I hold down these 2 notes, but if I keep the sustain pedal and only hold down one note, okay, and the relax rate says how quickly a note relaxes after you let go. And if we make that faster, it sounds like this. Or really really, really, really fast, and then it sounds like this. And that becomes fun when you use more deliberate ranges. And fascinating it might become, and nicely fakey as if you just use the ordinary 2 half notes and you use the magic pitch bend microtuning. You can do stuff like that. Strange stuff, and it's kind of like a new thing you might want to explore if you want to explore. I find it fascinating, and anyhow, so that's that. Yeah, and if you, of course, put it down, the slower you make it, eventually you won't notice. But there are also some other cool effects. If you do a semi-fast recovery, you can do sort of also nice chorus-like effects. Maybe a little fast for that, but anyhow, make it slower. So there's that. Oh, my chair, anyway. And that's not even an old one, it's a new one, anyhow. Maybe I'm lousy at assembling these things. Okay, let's ignore that you can change the color, but you can, and it's fun. I like that to sort of color code, the general identity of the sounds, but I was very inconsistent with that, so I wanted to be, but then, anyhow. So, yeah. Back to presets. That is our first preset. Haha, and I almost forgot again. One more weird-ass thing. Did I say weird-ass? Alright. The diffusion of spring B. I'm sure by now you all know about it. If you turn it all the way to 1, it becomes a noise. And mosquito. And those low and high frequency ones become the noise filter. Link doesn't matter in this case, actually. But it's actually meant for percussion. And so forth. But I leave some of it for you to explore. Alright. So that was that, and I hope you kind of got something out of it, and my rambling was sort of semi-understandable enough so that it made any sense to be there. Arguably. And yeah, I hope you make you have an enjoyable time with it. I know you're gonna make some great stuff, there's no doubt about it. But I hope you enjoy doing it, that's the most important thing. Other than that, there's surely more to come eventually, and I totally forgot to mention the little panic button, didn't I? There's a panic button. Yeah. Anyway, I probably have to even you know, work out some more power for the panic button. Yeah, anyhow, but right now it stops if your sounds were to go crazy. You can stop it. Yeah, that's all. Okay. And yeah, I'm looking around. Oh, I forgot one thing is fun. I know, it's like, what is it, 1 hour and 6 minutes? One thing is fun. I'm not sure if I was showing that. I can't remember. But let me just do this real quick. So we take spring A, balance to 1. Alright, that's nice and loud. I think you can almost imagine what's gonna happen right now. Let me go to modulation and turn that off here. Isn't it fun? I can get lost in there for hours. Or at least for very many minutes. Okay. Catch you guys soon, and good luck with what you do for the OSC and whatever you do with it. See you then.